Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel again. In today's video, we're gonna talk about the enemies creation, of course, their animation, and also we're gonna talk about more things like data assets, to async and load the asynchronous weapons, the warrior attribute sets, and how it's used on the player and on the enemies, and more things. I hope you enjoy the video. In this part of the video, we're gonna talk about the creation of the warrior enemy character, the creation of the blueprint enemy character, and the enemy combat component. And after this, I'm going to talk a little about the animation. I hope you like. At first, we're gonna go to Rider, and we're gonna go to the warrior enemy character. This warrior enemy character is a generic class that will heritate from the A warrior base character and will have some methods. At first, we will have the constructor, A warrior enemy character, where we will have the auto-possessed. It will have an AI controller and behavior. Also, we take out the rotation and we put some values on the character movement, like the desired rotation, orientation, rotation rate, and the speed, max walk speed, and the acceleration walking. Also, we're going to create a default sub-object that is going to be the enemy combat component, as you can see here. And after this, on the protected methods, we have a begin a pawn interface that will be a possessed by, and in this possessed by, we will init the enemy startup data. We will talk about the enemy startup data after this part. Okay, after this, we have a private method that is init enemy startup data, that is basically the initialization of the startup data of the enemy, but we will not talk about this right now. Perfect. And also, we have the enemy combat component that will be used on the warrior enemy character, but not right now. From now, it's empty, but it will be used, okay? After this, we go to Unreal, and we have different things. At first, we have a parent class blueprint that is called BP enemy character base. From here, we will create a child that will be specifically a BP Grantling base, okay? This BP Grantling base, it's a type of enemy that it's the Grantling Guardian, that is the Grantling, and after this, we will create different types of Grantlings. In this case, we have another child that is the BP Grantling Guardian. That is this one, with a specific mesh, skeletal mesh, and on a specific anim class. So as you can see. Also, this one has the enemy combat component that we have created and the warrior ability system component inherited. Also, we're going to talk about the anim class, the AVP Guardian. So I told you something that was wrong. We are going to have the AVP enemy base, okay? From the AVP enemy base, we're going to have some variables like the ground speed, the hash acceleration, and a default blend space. Ground speed, that is a float, the hash acceleration, that is a boolean, and the default blend space. Why? Because from the enemy base, we will have a specific behavior and a future child. So here what we're gonna do is we're gonna blend space the player with one variable that is ground speed and the default blend space that here is empty, okay? And we're gonna put it to a slot that will be the default slot and it will be the output pose. After this, we're gonna create a child that it's called AVP Guardian that is going only to have one value on the default blend space. That is going to be called BS Guardian Default. That is right here. This BS Guardian Default is a type of blend space with two animations that are the idle grunt and the exogame Grantling walk. And as you can see, when we change the ground speed, it will change to run or to go slower. That's it. I hope you enjoyed. Hi, welcome to another part of the video. In this part, we're going to talk about the data assets of the specific enemy, okay, that is going to be called the Grantling Guardian. I hope you like it. At first, on Rider, we're going to talk about the data asset startup database. That is the main data asset class, okay, that heritages from U data asset. I think we have talked about this before, but just a quick resume. We have some methods like the give to ability system component and three types of arrays that are the array of warrior gameplay ability, that is the activate on given abilities, the reactive abilities, and we have put another one, we have added another one, array that is called startup gameplay effects. Okay, so we're gonna talk about this on the next parts of the video. This part is going to be called gameplay effects. Okay, I'm going to talk about this later. Okay, on the CPP also we have added this part on the give to ability system component, and we're gonna check if there's any gameplay effect, and if it's any gameplay effect, we activate it. Okay, perfect. So from here, we create a child class that is going to be called data asset enemy startup data. And this is going to have a method that is going to be called give to ability system component. And what we make is, here, the data asset enemy startup data, we have another array that is going to be the enemy combat abilities. What is going to have is an ability with an input tag. So from each of these enemy combat abilities, we're gonna give the ability and we're gonna try to activate it, okay? And we go to Unreal. From here we have the data asset Guardian. As you can see, the native class is the enemy startup data, and we have 0 enemy combat abilities for the moment. And on the activate on given abilities, we have the gameplay ability Guardian spawn weapon. We're gonna talk about this later. And on the startup gameplay effects, we also have 2 array elements. We're gonna talk about this later. Hope you like it. In this part of the video, I'm going to talk about the warrior enemy character and how to load asynchronously their weapon, and the warrior enemy weapon, the tags, of the gameplay ability enemy spawn weapon. Okay. At first, one thing I haven't talked about before is in the warrior enemy character and the .h, we are gonna have a method that is called init enemy startup data. Here, what we do is to initialize the startup data. We haven't talked before. Okay. And one of the things we initialize is we make a request to load asynchronously the weapon. Okay, so this weapon, what we do is we create the startup data, okay, and we give it the ability to the system component, the warrior ability system component. Once the data asset is created and we make the give to ability system component, what we're going to do is we are gonna start all the abilities. Okay, so why do I tell you this? Because on the data asset Guardian, that is the data asset we're going to initialize, there is a space on the activate on given abilities that is the gameplay ability Guardian spawn weapon. This gameplay ability Guardian spawn weapon is gameplay ability that is a child from the gameplay ability shared spawn weapon. Okay, I'm going to talk about this first. This is, as I was telling you, this GA gameplay ability shared spawn weapon is directly from the warrior gameplay ability. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a child that is going to be called gameplay ability Guardian spawn weapon. Okay, that is going to have the same functionality. And with this, what we are going to do is to have the same functionality of the gameplay ability, and one of the attributes was the weapon class to spawn. And here we put the BPP, the blueprint Guardian weapon. Also, we have to know the socket name to attach to. That is the weapon socket, and the weapon tag to register. That is the enemy weapon. I'm going to talk more about this. The first thing is the weapon tag to register the enemy weapon. So here we have added on the warrior gameplay tags an enemy tag that is the enemy weapon. Okay. After this, we have the socket name to attach to, that is the weapon socket. So what we have to do is to go to the skeletal mesh of our enemy, in this case the SK Grantling Guardian, and here once it's open, we have to look for the weapon socket. In this case is this, okay? The weapon socket, we click the right click and we add preview asset, and we add the weapon socket in this case. So we're gonna use this name here to know where the weapon has to be attached to. Okay, and at last the weapon class to spawn, that will be the blueprint Guardian weapon. This blueprint Guardian weapon is going to be this weapon. Okay, that it's going to come from the warrior weapon base. Okay, it's going to have a collision box and a mesh. This warrior weapon base is, as you can see, has a static mesh and a weapon collision box. Okay, and this Guardian weapon is a child from the blueprint enemy weapon base. Okay, so from here they will be the parent class, will inherit all the childs of the Guardian weapon or more enemies weapon in the future. And this is how it looks. The player, and here's the enemy character with its mesh, and as you can see, the request to the asynchronous loaded has been a successful compile, and it has been loaded, the weapon, in this case of the enemy. Okay, so in this part of the video, I'm going to talk about the warrior attribute set. So this class is going to use the attribute set, and we're going to store the properties that we want in our game that are going to be the gameplay attribute data. So we're going to have the current health, the max health, the current rage, the max rage, the attack power, and the defense power that we will use later, okay? And on the CPP, we're going to init these variables. So we're going to init everything to 1. Okay, now we're going to talk about the curve table. This is going to be called curve table hero stats. And here we're going to add different variables. In this case, it's going to be max health, max rage, attack power, and defense power. And each of these variables are going to have different levels. So for example, if we enter the level 1, we're going to have the max health 100 and the max rate 75, the attack power 1.4, the defense power 1.1. And this can be changed on each level. After this, we're going to talk about the gameplay effects. The gameplay effect, whose native parent class is the gameplay abilities gameplay effect, is a type of effect that we use on our attributes. And we're going to start with the gameplay effect hero startup. This is going to be one gameplay effect that is going to be activated and that will modify the attributes we want. In this case, we're going to modify some attributes like the warrior attribute set max health with the modifier on override, and we're going to use the curve table hero stats, and we're going to select the hero max health. And the same is going to happen with the max rage of the hero stats, the attack power, and the defense power. After this, we're going to go gameplay effect hero static, and we're going to use the variables that are not at its max as current health or max health. So it's going to be current rage and current health. We are going to use this on the dataset hero. We have added the startup gameplay effects, and we're going to use the gameplay effect hero startup and the gameplay effect hero static. With these two, we're going to initialize with the startup all the variables at its max value. Yes, like for example the max health. Also, we can use the max, max speed, max rage, etc. Gameplay effect hero static, we're going to use the values of the current variables. So for example, current health, current rates, etc. Why this is working, and a little of debugging. So again, we now have the player, and when we press this and we the command and we write so debug ability system, is going to appear on the screen at the middle in the left side. Is going to have the block ability tags. We have the current health at 100, max health at 100, the current rage at 75, max rage 75, the attack power at 140, 1.4, and the defense power at 1.10. As you can see, those are the same values that were on the curve table hero stats on the first level. And at last, we have the dataset guardian that we will use. Also, the array startup gameplay effects with the gameplay effect guardian startup and the gameplay effect enemy static. At first, we're going to talk about the curve table guardian stats, as we have done with the player. We'll have 3 variables: the guardian attack power, the guardian defense power, and guardian max health. Each of these with the first level, to second level, third level, and fourth level. Okay, you can choose. And here on the gameplay effect guardian startup, we're going to use some variables like the warrior attribute set max health, the attack power, and also the defense power. So from here, we are going to initialize this gameplay effect on the data asset and with the variables of the curve table with the max health, attack power, and defense power. And the rest of the variables are going to be at 1. If we go to the enemy, the rest of the variables are going to be at 1, like current rage, max rage, or another ones that haven't been initialized. But current health, max health, and attack power are going to be different. Okay? Perfect. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching me. Goodbye.